so much. Thank you all so much for having me here today. This is actually my second time in Korea. Last year, I was here spending about a week in Busan with a community of Korean developers and also the Upbit team. And since then, I've been wholly convinced that this Korean community is absolutely critical for the growth of consumer applications, gaming for sure, and also the blockchain space at large. And a lot has changed since then. Last year, the zeitgeist question was, is the future of crypto multi-chain? And what occurred over the course of 2022 were bridge hacks that extorted nearly $1 billion of value out of the ecosystem, numerous alt layer ones which had raised in the hundreds of millions, launching, going live on mainnet, and then also just landmark moments in the ecosystem which have shaken in a lot of ways the entire space to its core and have raised questions about the best ways to build projects on-chain and on multiple chains. So we're going to go back in time to 2021. And back in 2021, it was actually a really novel concept to move assets between chains. And the interest in moving value between chains was simply for money transfer. And what was radical at that time was this concept of wrapped asset bridges. In addition to wrapped asset bridges, there were some other models which included middle chain consensus mechanisms and models that relied on third-party services. And so that was how users moved their tokens from chain A to chain B. But these designs had profound security and fragmentation issues associated with them, and led to a lot of the issues in 2022, or sort of teed us up for many of these hacks that occurred. No one was using the word omnichain at this time. So now, today, in 2023, we have seen that we are absolutely in a present that is multi-chain. There is no question about it, in large part because of the proliferation of L2s and rollups, the ambitious visions of teams like Optimism and Avalanche and Arbitrum and Polygon with their superchain concept, subnets, supernets, orbit chains. And we're also seeing really notable projects like MakerDAO and DYDX choosing a sovereign chain model and launching their own app chains, even diligencing right now which stack they'll be using for this. And the concept of omnichain became mainstream. In fact, this phrase was first used to self-describe the LayerZero protocol when we first launched, omnichain being distinct from multi-chain in that rather than simply deploying isolated instances of a protocol on multiple chains without there being communication between smart contracts, in essence, actually entirely different protocols. And this was the way that projects went on different chains throughout 2021 and early 2022. Omnichain is the concept of chain abstraction through communication between smart contracts on disparate chains. The end experience is simply the application. Maybe it's a game that's fun, or it's a DeFi protocol where you lend and borrow. It's not a Solana-based game or a Polygon-based lending and borrowing protocol. It's now just that app. And in this way, we're getting much closer to a Web 2-like experience in which users are less likely to churn and more likely to actually get the value that they want from the project that you've built. And so I'm going to tell a quick story here so you understand why LayerZero and its advent and launch in the ecosystem played such a huge role in getting us to where we are today. There were 3 developers who were from small towns in New England, and they met studying at an interoperability research center at their university. And they went on to hack on experiments together over the course of 10 years, conducted AI research. One of them went on to become one of the best poker players in the world. 2 of the others would build and sell software companies. And they eventually all came back together, united around their interest and like maxi usage of crypto. And because they were lifelong gamers, they wanted to build a game that was deployed on both Ethereum and BNB. And at this time, this was around 3 years ago, the fact that BNB, or Binance Smart Chain at the time, was garnering a lot of adoption was pretty radical too, because there was a lot of coalescence around Ethereum, and there simply was not a straightforward way to communicate across these two. And so as these three developers started diligencing different bridges, the only way to move value between chains at that time, as developers with expertise in security, they realized they would never trust any of these bridges. And as they went under the stack and started figuring out how they would build what they needed to create this game, they realized what was a lot more interesting was the underlying cross-chain communication layer. So how might we send packets of information from one chain to another? And so the problem of interoperability isn't actually that new. Their question was the same question that people asked in the late 1980s, when the internet was just the intranet. There were isolated research institutions like Stanford and UCLA and MIT who did not yet have a way to transfer information, the work that they were doing, from one server to another. TCP/IP was the internet protocol, or a suite of rules which were invented to enable efficient routing of information from one server to another. When we use YouTube today, or your brother sends an email, your grandmother is shopping online, TCP/IP is the underlying decentralized protocol that, for the test of time, has enabled the internet to scale and be used. And we don't think about TCP/IP when we're using YouTube or Amazon. This is just simply the internet. It's like watching a show on a flat screen TV. You're enjoying it because it's the flat screen TV, not because of all the wires hanging down. And TCP/IP was essential for that mass growth of the internet. And so within our space here, we now have all of these different blockchains, and the interoperability between them is incredibly crucial for building applications that actually can retain users. So why, again, is interop important? The best principles of Web 2 software building can point towards some of these reasons. The first thing is, because we are in a present of many, many chains, I mean maybe 3 to 5 well-funded teams launching rollups and L2s every single week. This means that right now, to build a project on multiple chains, there's the complexity of needing multiple gas tokens, having to leave your tab and go to a centralized exchange to buy them, go back, switch your wallets, maybe 10 clicks. It could be 10 minutes, it could be an hour. At this point, you've likely churned, or a user that was going on your protocol is now, going to go run and do their groceries. It's not an ideal user experience. The second reason is for the developer and user experience. For developers, pre-LayerZero, it was incredibly difficult to do all of this under the hood. And for me, as someone who comes from an engineering background, I think about different chains like different programming languages. If I were to ask myself, how might I build a really excellent application that enables me to share my workouts with my friends? So I'm thinking of Strava right now. I wouldn't think to myself, okay, I really want to build something with C++. Now, how do I get to that thing I want to build? Instead, I have this suite of back-end languages and front-end programming languages and ML ops tools and Figma, microservices. In the same way with LayerZero, now different chains are like different programming languages or even microservices. You can use Filecoin VM for storage, or Arweave for storage. You can enable settlement on ZK EVM or ZK Sync. You can pull in liquidity from Ethereum. And you can also have gameplay on your own app chain. It could be an Avalanche subnet. And all of this is unified under the hood with this piping, but abstracted away for the end user. So they pay with one gas token, it's one click, and they don't need to know which chains they're interacting with. They don't need to know the difference between Ethereum and Solana. And then the last reason is security. Having a cross-chain messaging protocol that is actually built to enable deep and enduring security is incredibly important. And as I alluded to before, some of the most painful moments in our industry have been due to bridge hacks or smart contract exploits. And so the core concept of LayerZero, we intended to build something that resonated with our academic research backgrounds. Our three founders, the three penguins that I showed earlier in that photo, all came from this background. I personally resonate with this as someone who had done research in anti-surveillance technology in university. How do you build something that will become so integral to the infrastructure stack and evolves with time? So the best research today, the best security techniques, validation techniques of today, should not and will not be the techniques that we use 5 years from now or 10 years from now. Even in this past year, we've seen ZK Lite clients, for example, finally be ready for production. 2 years ago, that certainly wouldn't have been the case. And so if you built a messaging protocol in a way that relied on a monolithic layer of security in order to adopt a new best practice, you would have to entirely upgrade the protocol, which would reduce the security of that protocol back to square one. And so the trade-off we were trying to figure out here is, how do you build something that evolves with research, that enables modularity and optionality for application developers, and puts security first and foremost? These were the three design principles that informed how LayerZero was architected. First one is immutability. So this means that the core smart contract should not be upgradable. Immutability is incredibly important, particularly when you think about the fact that the majority of bridge hacks were due to benign smart contract upgrades, meaning developers who had the best of intentions, but introduced a flaw in the code and thereby spread contagion across all of the projects built on top of it. When you're building infrastructure, you have to be thinking about the tail risk for all of the projects that are leveraging your stack. The second principle is permissionlessness. This is also in line with core Ethereum ethos. Any application can build with LayerZero. They don't need permission from LayerZero Labs or even to coordinate with LayerZero Labs. It's entirely open, and even in our documentation, you can go in and just get started in a matter of 5 minutes. You can be a college dropout and have built a protocol that's omni-chain within a day. It's also permissionless in the sense that developers can launch their own off-chain entities, and they can switch out that stack that's meant to validate how messages are passed and secured at their own whim. This means you can design a flow where a governance vote in your DAO passes and triggers a change to your off-chain stack. Maybe you want to run one yourself so you can own your security without unilateral control, or maybe there's a new option from this permissionless marketplace that we have of oracles and relayers, which you now want to include because your protocol has also grown over time. When you launched, you had 100 users and you were securing $100,000, but now it's 2 years later and you're securing $2 billion and 1 million users are using your project. You want to price your security higher, and you could do so without actually making any code changes and instead just configuring your settings. And then the last principle is censorship resistance. And one, this is incredibly important because when you're using infrastructure like LayerZero or like anything else that handles value transfer, you want to ensure that your end users aren't being taken advantage of and that a message can't be reordered so that someone else can front run and extract more MEV. LayerZero is non-sorter enforced. Every message that's sent has to be sent across in the exact order in which it was submitted. Additionally, building an immutable primitive so that it's censorship resistant is so critical in this unclear regulatory environment. Because let's say in one nation state, a government decides to say you have to shut down this set of validators or you cannot use this technology. Well, because LayerZero was built with entirely immutable smart contracts, these endpoints cannot be changed at any point by LayerZero Labs. The immutability preserves the permissionlessness and the non-sorter enforcement, and also means that the technology can't be perverted to comply with some sort of new law or regulation. It's simply an evergreen primitive that any developer can use for the test of time. In fact, LayerZero was built so that should LayerZero Labs not exist anymore, every single project leveraging the protocol can do so in perpetuity. And that is what was incredibly critical to us when we were thinking about building something for the infrastructure stack for the long term. So who are we now? We have secured more than $30 billion in value. LayerZero is deployed on more than 40 EVMs and non-EVMs. We are also integrated and used by more than 1,000 unique applications. So this is unique DeFi protocols, games, NFT projects, tokens that have adopted our omni-chain standards. It has been an incredible past 2 years and has exceeded all of our expectations in regards to growth and also understanding of this omni-chain thesis. LayerZero is a mesh network, which means that rather than even simply bidirectional or one-way message passing, there is message movement across all of the supported chains and selected by the app developers. And so it links all of these connected chains, and how the protocol enables this is through endpoints, which are the immutable smart contract libraries, which we deploy on each of the supported chains, EVMs and non-EVMs. Every single week now, we're launching new endpoints. Today, we announced that we had launched an endpoint on Zora, which is a new chain within the Optimism superchain. We're incredibly excited to be there as well, and I know a bunch of our partners are here at the conference too, and excited to meet you all and talk about building on their chain using LayerZero. Messaging is secured by designated off-chain infrastructure, which is selected from that permissionless marketplace I discussed before. And this is how we achieved a design which was modular, put security in the hands of application developers, and also could scale with any outcome of our industry. Maybe actually all momentum coalesced around Ethereum and one other chain. Great. Or maybe there was the case where we would have hundreds of L2s. Also great. And that's actually where we seem to be trending, which is really exciting. This is a diagram that shows this endpoint-to-endpoint communication, and between the endpoints are those off-chain entities. So some really exciting use cases that we've seen come about and that we have taken in as feedback and launched products around. So the first one was the very first product that we launched alongside LayerZero, the protocol, which is Stargate Finance. Stargate is the most widely used native asset bridge across all of crypto. 2 weeks after launch, this was in March of 2022, Stargate reached an organic TVL entirely bootstrapped of $4.4 billion. And this is the primary way that value flows in and out of major ecosystems without wrapping assets. It uses LayerZero as the underlying messaging protocol. And this is a really fascinating graph, one that surprised us too. We noticed over the last year that LayerZero has become the dominant way to move in and out of ecosystems that even have native bridges. So you can see here the white portion shows the usage for LayerZero in and out of ecosystems, including Arbitrum, Polygon, Optimism, and Avalanche. And the colored portions are the usage of their native bridges. This has further solidified the thesis of layer 2 to layer 2 communication, which has become one of the primary reasons why developers integrate LayerZero. And further here shows the growth of this. So in September of 2022, about a year ago, this thesis was not very clear at all. And then fast forward to April 2023, all of that white bar is LayerZero usage. So the growth and adoption of the protocol as the de facto way to send messages cross-chain and to build omni-chain applications is more clear than ever. We built these omni-chain standards, OFT, which stands for Omni-Chain Fungible Token, and ONFT, as an out-of-the-box way for developers to integrate or launch their token from day one in an omni-chain manner. So what this means is for OFT, which is the ERC20 version of the omni-chain token, native tokens can now be seamlessly transferred between chains without having to go through bridges or wrapped asset risk. So this means the contracts are owned by the developers, and these tokens can expand to move between any chain that's supported by LayerZero. So some of the use cases for this that are particularly compelling are for stablecoins. So there are some stablecoin issuers that have struggled with launching their tokens very quickly on multiple chains and having a unified supply of liquidity. This solves for that. For CBDCs, for in-game currency, let's say you've launched 3 games and you want the same currency across all 3 of those, OFT is ideal for that. For protocol tokens, governance tokens, even your friend tech share can be an OFT. And you leverage liquidity from everywhere. So rather than betting on one chain, let's say you're launching your token and you say, today it's chain A that's really popular. You future-proof your token because now it can move anywhere. You could port your entire community to a different chain, or you simply deploy an OFT contract on 3 new chains and now unlock the portal so that your users can access the utility of that token from wherever their home chain is. And it also grows your community because we have users, for example, in South Korea, Clayton is a really popular ecosystem. If you now launch your token as Omnichain on Clayton, you invite a whole new cohort of users who are familiar with the native gas tokens of Clayton, the wallets of Clayton, and don't have to then launch or build their own Solana wallet or set up an Ethereum-based wallet. For DeFi and FinTech, the arbitrary contract invocation that LayerZero enables has led to integrations like Radiant, which is a cross-chain lending and borrowing protocol. You can lend and borrow on multiple chains, and users only have to do one click and have one gas token in their wallet. We have protocols like Pendle. This is a protocol that's come out of this region, integrating LayerZero for cross-chain v tokenomics. And then we also have protocols like Balancer, using LayerZero for cross-chain boosts. And then for FinTech as well, or TradFi and Enterprise, LayerZero really is the only protocol that is purpose-built for their use cases. Because you will never find a bank that's going to trust the security of all of their value in the hands of a multisig, or in the hands of a third-party service, or a bridge that was built and managed by a team that runs the majority of the validators, or all the validators use the same code. With LayerZero, it's actually modular enough that these teams can run those components themselves. In addition, LayerZero is uniquely suited to support financial use cases because of this proprietary security module we created called Precrime. What Precrime is, it's a module that forks every single message that goes across the protocol and runs it locally against a set of invariants defined by the application developers. So that invariant might be an algorithm. It might simply be a set of whitelisted addresses. Whatever your application is protecting users against, it checks against that, and only when it's secured does it push back and run across mainnet. And Precrime is what has secured Stargate since day one. It's what secured Stargate when at 4.4 billion in TVL, every black hat attacker in the space was trying to crack the protocol. ONFT is the NFT parallel standard. I just ran through OFT. This is how NFT projects can integrate LayerZero to move seamlessly between chains or launch their project from day one on multiple chains. The transfer between them involves leveraging LayerZero messaging to convey state. And what you see right here is a diagram showing that flow with the example of Pudgy Penguins. Pudgy Penguins is a project that's really near and dear to all of our hearts because the LayerZero team all have penguins, and also because they were a project which reached out and wanted to create a really seamless transfer experience for their users to open the portal from Ethereum to Arbitrum, BNB, and Polygon. And that was a huge success. Since then has led to many other notable projects launching ONFTs. The landscape today is so exciting, and particularly at this gathering, we are in person with a lot of these gaming studios that have adopted ONFT. So Pudgy Penguins, Kampai Pandas was also one of the first projects to integrate ONFT. Ghostly Ghost was the original team of scrappy developers who found the GitHub repo and decided to launch a project that enabled the artwork to mutate between chains, meaning when a ghost is on Avalanche, the outline of the ghost is red, and if it was minted on Polygon, the background is purple. But when a user moves it from Avalanche to Ethereum, then the outline turns blue. That's a really simple example, but it shows how powerful arbitrary contract invocation is. You can mutate the metadata of your assets as it moves between chains, or as actions between chains trigger those messages. And then Shrapnel is a game that we are so excited about. It's one of the most hotly anticipated games that will launch later this year. Head to toe, their stack leverages LayerZero for movement of assets and also gameplay experiences like a user kills a boss on chain A, triggers a message that gets sent from chain A to chain B. That message mutates the metadata of an NFT. And suddenly, in 1 second, a user was rewarded for a task and their NFT has a crown, or their NFT has mutated into a different creature. This is possible with LayerZero. The growth of omnichain applications further cements our confidence in this. You can see right here, Stargate has secured volumes of beyond $18 billion. DeFi Kingdoms was one of the OG games that integrated LayerZero and has sent across the protocol 3.76 million messages. PancakeSwap integrated OFT for their token, and the growth in the Ethereum ecosystem has been profound. And BTCB, which is a version of Wrapped Bitcoin issued by Ava Labs, also integrated OFT. And after it integrated OFT, the token supply and velocity of usage doubled. This has also exceeded our expectations. This is a graph showing the monthly messages across LayerZero. So you can see from June of last year all the way until March or April of this year, there was steady growth. But then after April, it's been really exponential. And so now we're nearly at 20 million messages per month. At the end of KBW, we're projected to pass 70 million messages in total. And if you'd asked me about a year and a half ago, given that we had just entered a bear market, I never would have guessed that we would be at 70 million this quick. Cumulative contracts on mainnet are also pretty astonishing. We're at nearly 13,000 contracts on mainnet, and you can also see the growth here. This means that there are 13,000 contracts that have integrated LayerZero, are calling to the endpoints, sending packets of information between them, and enabling end-user experiences that are chain abstracted. And these are contracts on testnet. So we're almost at 30,000 contracts on testnet. What does that mean for the next 12 months for crypto and for gaming? This means that we will see an enormous amount of established and net new projects launching as omnichain or expanding to other chains. These are all projects that are in staging mode right now, sending test tokens, which are OFTs, between different chains, and also figuring out what is truly novel that you can do with this arbitrary contract invocation. Maybe you don't need a toggle button anymore that says you're on Avalanche now and now you're on Optimism. Maybe it's actually just an application, and under the hood, it's leveraging all of this. It's incredibly exciting to see, and I think will impact a lot of the people in the space as they think about their retail engagement, but also how you will be building your projects too. And one more thing, I am so excited to be able to share today that in September, we will be announcing our deep partnership with Magic Eden. Magic Eden is one of the strongest NFT marketplaces, launchpads, and gaming projects in the space. We will be launching multiple products with them and use this this moment as a signal towards our commitment to gaming and also NFT creators across both EVM and non-EVM. You can probably glean what that might mean for non-EVMs that we'll be supporting in the future. And if there is one takeaway from this talk today, it is certainly that the future of interoperability is the future of crypto. And Korea plays a really huge role in this. I want to thank Francis Kang, who is the co-head of conference, here today for being so gracious and inviting LayerZero, for the FACTBLOCK team for organizing all of this, and also for so many of the projects here that are integrating LayerZero right now or have already. Those announcements will be rolling out over the next few weeks, and I urge you all to play with them, experiment, reach out. I want to hear your feedback, and if you're building something or if there are any developers in the audience, come find me and my team members throughout the week. We love sitting down and jamming on different designs and also talking about our vision for the future. Thank you so much.